see within about 9 months, you can see where it registered. And that particular trauma is connected to a tissue in our body. So it might be connected to your stomach. So what we found is that when you're ready to heal through what we call a program or a relay, then you have a proliferation in the area that it's associated with. So that's when you get a stomach ache, or you get diarrhea, or you get the flu, or something like that.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
So your body's always talking to you. But what we're doing is relays are nothing more than coping mechanisms. So we start out with the base of the brainstem, the cerebellum, and the medulla. And those are your muck and mire. That's your old stuff about like devaluation and fight or flight and all of that. The cortex part of the brain is all about patterning, and it forms beliefs for us as part of our experiences. It's how we are going to be in the world, how we're going to be safest. So if you fall off your bike when you're 3, and then you have a car accident when you're 8, and then you have a car accident you were driving when you're 16, maybe you start to have a fear of driving, or maybe you start to isolate, and those patterns are not necessarily realistic beliefs, but they're formed to keep us safe. So if you think of our unconscious brain, has all of the information. Our soul wants to have experiences, but our brain is like a toddler. So the toddler thinks they know it all, right? You try to tell them something, and they go, nope, you're wrong, I know. And you say, this is where babies come from. Nope, I know, they come from a coconut. Okay, so what do you say to a 3-year-old? Okay, if that's what you want to believe.
Right.
But our soul wants to have experience, and it's not afraid because it knows that we have been here before and we go on afterwards, and it just wants experience. But our brain makes us want, it says, stop, don't do that, because you're not going to be safe, you're going to get us killed. And so QNRT is about taking the relays and removing those old patterns and old beliefs one by one so that you kind of have a clean slate.
So what does the QNRT stand for?
Quantum Neurological Reset Therapy. It's a mouthful.
And how do you do it? Is it a machine?
So there's a newer way to do it. I use a combination of old and new because I got to be in that first class of people where we studied for 2 years. They've streamlined it down to weekends. And but I do it a combination of the old and new way. So I do a scan using my SpectraVision, and it's scanning brain layers and hormones, neurotransmitters, all of the things, tissues, and then we make a little vial. It's called your master stress vial. It's kind of like your kryptonite. And those frequencies light up the relays in the unconscious brain. So those are our connection to the unconscious brain, where in the past we have maybe hypnosis to connect. We have maybe emotional freedom technique where you tap, people for phobias, EMDR, the rapid eye movement. But those are really kind of the only kind of therapies out there that can even begin to connect to the unconscious brain. So for us, the frequencies are the connection. So it'll light up a relay that we can work with then. Wow. And the beauty of the work is that the vials that the person tests through kinesiology tell us the story, so the person doesn't even have to be aware necessarily of the story.
Wow, isn't that amazing?
Yeah. So you get a brain layer. So you would draw a brain layer. It might be medulla, which is going to be devaluation of some sort. Then you go and you get a tissue, and medulla you can have up to 3. So it might be 3 different tissues. Those will all mean something. So knee,
I have
right
a
side,
knee.
I'm afraid to move forward. Shoulder, I failed at whatever, and maybe hand, I can't hang on to whatever. And then you go get an age. So when was the first time that you felt this, and then what was the most recent time you felt this? And then, so it kind of gives you, and then a negative core value, maybe that I'm not wanted or I'm not loved or something like that, and a pattern. I'm a people pleaser, or I just make lemonade out of my lemons, joy, satisfaction. And so the person holds these vials, and that is the story. So then you say, okay, when you were 14 years old, what was going on that made you feel like this? And they'll say, oh my gosh, it was this. And then you say, okay, how does it relate today? And they usually know exactly how it relates today. If it's really early childhood, we guess what's going on in the family right then, because you're so connected to parents till between 5 and 8.
Right.
That whatever's going on with mom and dad, you're going to think that you're part of that. And then we can do a process where we do some tapping on the quadrants of the brain, some neurolinguistics. I'm ready, willing, and able to release whatever, and replace with this is what I set my intention for.
And do you do the tapping, or do you let them?
I do the tapping while the person holds
the vials.
Usually the vials on the tissue and maybe a release point or something. So there's a system to clear the relay.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. There's no 5-minute elevator speech to the work, but it's life-changing.
No.
Life-changing work.
Right. So I don't even know what to say. That is so intense.
May I?
Yeah.
All right. I have had a biofeedback guy for the last, I want to say, close to 13 years, and we exchange services. His name is Mike Sosa.
Okay.
And we do exactly what you're talking about. And he runs my pattern through his machine, and he has my frequency, and he can send me energy through the phone, which totally wigs me out, because I can sit there at night and feel something going on, and I go, oh, yeah, that's Mike. And crazy stuff is that all this stuff works, and the vibrations...
It's energy.
It's energy. That's why it works through the phone, because blink and you're somewhere else, really.
Truly. He's got the little vials, and we started a long time ago doing these things called nates, and they were frequencies in a bottle of what you were allergic to, and you'd hold on to them for a little while, and then you'd put them down, and you don't pick them up for 24 hours, and then you wouldn't be allergic to them anymore.
See, isn't that amazing? And people wouldn't believe it. There's people that don't believe this kind of stuff, and they think it's all woo-woo, but it's not.
It's not woo-woo.
It's energy. It's energy.
Yeah, it's just healing through energy versus healing through physical means. And so you can so much, if you think about physical medicine. So say that I have something going on and my gut's inflamed. So if I take a pill, I have to take it in, I have to break it down, I have to absorb it properly, and then it has to travel where it needs to get to the proper cells in the body. At least a liquid's better than a pill, because I don't have to break it down, right? And so that then you go to, or spray with frequencies. Frequencies just go right into the mucous membranes and go to the cells and direct them what to do. There is a point where, like, you do need physical medicine as well. So I'm a believer in complementary medicine, because if I have something, so the gut, if somebody has irritable bowel or something like that, when I do use my machine and do scanning and balancing and give them homeopathics, the gut responds to frequency direction really well. But there's other areas of the body. If you have osteoporosis, directing your cells to make bone you need calcium and D, and you need the things that you need to build the bone. So there's a place for both things. So you have to know where to use it. I gravitated kind of instantly towards using it more for emotional healing. Although, I've seen everything. I see children, I see adults, and so.
So you've been doing this for quite a while
now. 12 years.
That's
QNRT is about 10 years old.
Very good. Very good. So what is, like, the most common? Is there a most common ailment?
No, but those of us who do the work, we get in a niche, right? And so Dr. Turner loves performance. So like you said, allergies. I actually have trays for allergies. And I, for some reason, ended up more in family and children. So marriage, personal, PTSD, addictions, things like that. So one-on-one personal types of things. Dr. Turner really gravitated towards performance. You could have an entire practice on allergies. My friend who's in Dallas, her practice is just all people who just want to be better. Like, she is the most interesting, fun people who already have it together and just want to up their game. Yeah. So we all kind of have our own niches. And so for me, it's really self-betterment, self-empowerment, I think.
So I find this to be very fascinating. I am really into energy. I just think it's so awesome. And
that's because you're a Reiki person.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think, yes. And I'm attracted to that kind of stuff. So I've been doing like experiments. And look at your dog. I gave your dog a distance Reiki treatment.
You did. She did. My dog, my little dog, my little Sophie, she weighed all of 2 pounds, and she was my heart. I think I conjured her out of thin air. I really do. Had her for 7.5 years, and so she was young to be sick, and she got really sick, and, we took her down to Detroit, and $4,000, and 2 days later, they still don't know what's wrong with her. So they send her home, and because they had ruled out pretty much everything that we could do medically for her. If it was a cancer, we could have gone further, but she was too small to do any type of surgery or anything. And so we took her home, and all I wanted was for her to be comfortable. I did not want her to be in pain. And so, yes, we talked, and you did Reiki healing for her to be comfortable. And we actually had never met in person yet, the two of us. And Sophie, the day we took her in, and finally, because she was the night before, we thought we were going to wake up and she wouldn't be here. So the next day we called the vet, and he agreed when we took her in. He agreed the whole time. She was in there a number of times. She had no pain. And so I syringe fed her twice a day for about 6 weeks and had some time with her. And then, when she just got really weak, we just decided that was time. But she never had any pain. That's one. Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome.
That was amazing.
And every now and then she'd pop into my mind, and so I would do it again. And I didn't even know that I had that affinity with animals. I mean, I know people that do animal Reiki, but I had never done it. And Deb Z's dog had this mass on his throat here, and I'm not a big fan of Chihuahuas because that's the only dog that ever backed me into a corner. Isn't that funny? A little Chihuahua. And I went over there to do something else, and we were talking, and I said, well, do you want me to try doing some Reiki on him? And she said, in my heart, I'm saying, please say no. And she said, oh, Deb, he'll bite you. We've had him to how many different places, and they have to put a muzzle on him. He just bites and bites and snaps. And I said, really? And I put my hand over there, and he just reached his face over to me. So I did some Reiki on him. He wouldn't let me leave.
I wonder why, huh?
He kept coming over, and I'd lean down and had put that mass on his neck right in my hand.
You were supposed to do something with it.
Yeah,
that, right?
And I did. I gave him Reiki and kept him comfortable until he passed.
You need to do that for her other skinny one. Am I on?
No, now you are.
Okay. She's got another dog that's real thin, and I don't know how the dog can't be in pain.
That little tiny one, yeah.
The anorexic. I call him the anorexic one.
Yeah. So anyway, energy is so amazing, and people run experiments. If you don't believe things, there's an experiment. Have you seen that rice experiment?
I've seen the yogurt one.
Tell us about it.
So they hooked up. How did this work? They hooked up a petri dish with electrodes, and then hooked up the guy, the person who is going to be hooked to the yogurt by electrodes, right? And then, so the yogurt should be inanimate, right? So the yogurt before it was hooked up to him didn't register anything. But once it was hooked up to him, they said, okay, now think of somebody you really don't like. And the yogurt started to respond. And then they said, think of something that you really enjoy. And he said, okay. And the yogurt responded. It's or like Emoto. They got impulses from it.
Oh, okay.
So it's similar to, Emoto. You're familiar with Emoto, the pictures of the water?
Yes. Oh, yes. I love that.
When you freeze, so Emoto studied water because we're made up of over 80% water.
Right.
So he was trying to see, does our, do we have a consciousness sort of, or are we impacted by other people's negativity or positivity, right? And so he took samples of water and he froze them in Petri dishes, and they